Hey, Janice. Hello. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the staff for working with my staff, and wanted to address the amendments proposed. I'd like, for today at least, accept the first amendment that's relating to the CPUC and discretion, similar language as to the Skinner bill, and the third amendment regarding consistency of the bills tax. We had a benefits and a full benefits. It was confusing. We'll just go with the benefits as one. Regarding the second amendment, I'd like to continue to work with your staff on CCAs, community choice aggregators, and relating to this particular measure. I've worked with them a lot. Let's see if we can get this right. Of course, you always have the ability, if we don't get this right and you and I work together well, we can revisit this if this bill moves forward, either in appropriations or requesting coming back to committee. But for the beginning of this discussion, 1 and 3 good to go. 2, I'd like an opportunity to continue to work on just that part of it.
Okay.
All right. Now, this particular bill is sort of part of the package relating to Aliso Canyon. It's on grid reliability and different options that we have before us. It's really an important measure. It's a safety measure and it's an energy reliability measure. We've become so overly dependent on natural gas facilities like Aliso Canyon. It's an 86 billion cubic foot facility, one of the very largest natural gas reservoirs in the nation, and it's right in literally in the backyard of 32,000 people who are neighbors. You know about the leak last October. It went on for 4 months. What you may not know is there's several thousand families who still not moving back because we haven't tested all the wells, and it's hard to assure families that their children will be safe. We're working very hard with several bills, one that you've heard earlier today regarding protocols relating to Senator Allen on how to contact who should be the lead agency in the point of an emergency. We had absolute chaos for a while. We're doing another one on making sure all the wells are inspected prior to refilling the reservoir. I'm working with Senator Leno on closing loopholes in methane emissions, so it's not just pipelines, it looks at reservoirs. This is a big deal, not only in the district, but in the region as a whole. So today's bill is focusing on how we should look at perhaps the opportunities associated with planning for the long term. What are the lessons learned from having an 86 billion cubic foot reservoir in your backyard? It's almost like deja vu. I went through the 2001 energy crisis that Senator Hertzberg was Speaker of the Assembly on, and you don't want to relive those days, but we did learn about the importance of diversifying your energy supply. We were dependent so much on Enron and out-of-state gas and other things that for a variety of reasons I won't go into, but the system was gained. Lawsuits are still being won on California's behalf. But we learned that diversification was important in your energy supply, and that's what led to the original RPS standards. The 20% RPS standard helped put in homegrown energy, renewables like wind and solar right here in California, so we weren't relying on just one source of energy. We're back again. That's one of the lessons learned from Aliso Canyon. Let's diversify. How can we reduce demand on natural gas and diversify our fuel supply so that we're not so overly dependent? If there's another natural gas leak at Aliso Canyon, we're going to have far greater risk for the surrounding area, let alone the homeowners who live next door. It's sort of like, as I look forward to retirement in the near future, would you invest all my retirement savings, since we don't have a pension, right, in just one stock? No. We would want to diversify and make sure that we sort of cover all sort of options and things that could go wrong. We are now overly dependent on natural gas as a singular source, and here's the irony of it all. As we're ramping up renewables, we know renewables in many cases don't operate 24/7. Wind, when it's windy outside, we have energy. When the sun shines, we have energy. What do we do in the downtimes? Well, we now rely on natural gas. So what was a very small reservoir now is a huge natural gas reservoir, as LA has reduced their dependence on out-of-state coal, 50% from their energy supply used from out-of-state coal. They're now down to 25%. They're now dependent on natural gas. So we're seeing this potential shift, but not only is natural gas a fossil fuel, we know that. I've always viewed it as a transitional gas, but we shouldn't be so dependent on just one for a variety of reasons, not only for methane leaks. 20% of all the state's methane emissions from last year will be coming courtesy of Aliso Canyon. How do we mitigate those? Another story for another day. So we also have some changes in statutes, such as SB 350. When you're ramping up 50% on renewable energy, you're going to increase renewable energy, but you're going to have natural gas or a plan B like storage or other kinds of demand response activities in order not to be so dependent on just one energy supply. So, Mr. Hertzberg, I'm seeing sort of deja vu from my first year in office with you on our energy crisis to now today looking at Aliso Canyon as we should know better, and we should diversify and reduce our risk, not only to the residents, but energy reliability in the region. So with that, I have a speaker, witness, Janice Lin. She's the Executive Director of California Energy Storage Alliance with me today.
Hi.
Hello, thank you.
Yep.
So my name's Janice Lin, and I'm the Executive Director and co-founder of CISA. For those of you who don't know CISA, we're a nonprofit industry association representing 65 member companies, and our mission is to advance the role of energy storage for the purpose of achieving a more reliable, affordable, and secure electric power system in California. I'd like to start by thanking Senator Pavley for her leadership and vision with respect to the role that energy storage can play in enhancing California's grid reliability and independence, and thank Chair Hueso and all of you for hearing this bill. I'd like to start by saying that one of the reasons we are so much in support of this visionary bill is for the very simple reason that goals in the energy storage procurement goal requirement for 2030 in this bill are really important for progress, just any kind of progress, and especially for modernizing our grid. And energy storage can provide the flexible, reliable infrastructure we already know we need throughout California. Let me explain why. So the first analogy on the importance of goals. I know many of you are probably parents. I'm a parent myself. My kids are middle school age. And we all know if we want our kids to go to college, you need to start early. For me, I'm already talking to them about the importance of doing their homework, getting good grades. And more specifically for Senate Bill 886, as Senator Pavley mentioned, we have a future that's partially defined. We now have a 50% RPS, a goal of 40% reduction in GHGs by 2030. And we know that that goal will largely be accomplished via solar and wind, which are wonderful renewable resources. We're the Saudi Arabia of solar here in the United States. And, but those resources don't necessarily coincide with when consumption occurs. With energy storage, we can bottle that abundant, valuable solar and wind and use it when we want, where we want. And in so doing, we will reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. We will increase our diversity, reliability, resiliency, and independence. Assembly Bill 2514, as you recall, required the PUC to consider a storage procurement goal for 2020. That was under a 33% RPS. Now, with the RPS at 50% and the benefit of hindsight regarding Aliso Canyon, we know we need to diversify. We need resources that can be sited anywhere, such as in dense urban centers like the LA Basin, resources that can help us take advantage of abundant renewable energy and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. Energy storage is an asset class akin to generation. It's extremely diverse, even in the forms and many different types of technologies that are available. It can be sited anywhere. It's the fast, flexible resource we know we need, and energy storage needs a new goal for 2030. Setting a 2030 goal now will provide much-needed market signal to the industry and investors to drive down costs sooner than later. It's worth noting that the Integrated Resource Plan called for by Senate Bill 350 will take years to produce a similar market signal. And finally, I'd like to say that there is no downside to Senate Bill 886, only upside. The standard set by AB 2514 requires cost effectiveness for energy storage procurement, so no storage will be procured unless ratepayers benefit. And each of you should have received a handout. I'll speed it up. This is the results of an analysis that EPRI conducted back in 2013, looking at use cases of storage, and you'll notice that the vast majority of them are cost effective. Finally, more recently, Edison demonstrated commercial cost effectiveness of storage through their recent procurement of local capacity. And we know that thanks to AB 2514, goal setting has been very effective. So as Senator Pavley stated, Aliso Canyon is a wake-up call, but not the first. Focusing on a more diverse portfolio of resources will reduce risk for California and provide valuable optionality, but that optionality won't happen unless we plan for it and set goals. I respectfully urge your aye vote.
Thank you. Do we have more comments and support? I just state your name and your position on the bill, please.
Kelly Dawn on behalf of California Lake Conservation Voters in support.
Mark Fenstermaker, representing Environmental Defense Fund, in support.
Anthony Harrison on behalf of STEM in support.
Shane Levine on behalf of Solar City in support.
Gareth Elliott on behalf of the Solar Energy Industries Association in support.
Anyone like to speak in opposition of the bill? And if you could make some room for the opposition too.
Mr. Chair, members, Cindy Howe, Southern California Edison. We are, Edison is a big fan of energy storage, and we're a big fan of Senator Pavley. Unfortunately, we respectfully oppose this bill. It has three components. It establishes storage as part of the loading order. It establishes a new tariff for storage, and it establishes a new target. The first two are consistent with policies already adopted by the legislature and in the process of implementation at the CPUC. And the third one we feel is premature. Last year, SB 350 established an integrated resources plan that looks to optimize the use of all resources, specifically preferred resources, in going forward, which storage will be a big component of that. As was referenced in earlier testimony, Southern California Edison has really hit the ball out of the park with regard to storage procurement. We had a 50 megawatt target mandate. We procured 264 megawatts of storage, the majority of which is behind the customer side of the meter. So we think that establishing a tariff, not necessary right now. We also have the self-gen incentive program, which we understand the CPC is adding storage to that. So customers currently have the ability to access incentives for storage behind the customer side of the meter. And with regard to establishing a target, as I'd mentioned, the Integrated Resources Plan does establish that market signal, as well as the market signal by our 2020 goal established by AB 2514. So it's for these reasons that while we're moving forward with storage, and our concern is that legislating a new target will only impact our ability to procure the most cost-effective resources. So we respectfully oppose and will continue working with the author on all solutions to Aliso Canyon, which we understand and fully support: grid reliability, safety, the importance of diversifying energy resources, which, as I've mentioned, we think are already part of the policy of the state and are being implemented through your passage of SB 350 last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Valerie Terrell of Lajos with PG&E. associate myself with the comments just made by my colleague and just add that on the procurement targets, we do feel there is a prematurity because we haven't had a chance to evaluate the results of the targets that were adopted pursuant to AB 2514. So we want to do that before we consider new targets, especially in light of, as my colleague mentioned, we do have now the Integrated Resources Plan that was just passed out of SB 350. And finally, I would also mention that another type of storage technology is called pumped hydro storage. And PG&E has a 1,200 megawatt facility near Fresno. So that is another technology that can aid us in the integration of renewables and the reliability of our grid. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Israel Salas, San Diego Gas and Electric, apologize for our tardy letter of opposition. We appreciate the committee's amendments. We're still reviewing the amendments for impact, but echo the comments by our colleagues at Southern California Edison and PG&E. We'll continue to work with the author on some of the challenges that we have with respect to double dipping with SCHIP, language in the IRP, and the prematurity of a target that we still don't understand the full impact of the current one. So thank you.
Thank you.
Matt Kloppenstein on behalf of the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. Also apologies that our letter was not in on time to be in the analysis. We are fully supportive of storage, but do not see this bill, at least in its current form, as the right way forward. We will continue to work with the author and review the amendments being taken. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members, Greg Cook, representing Northern California Power Agency. We do have a concern with the bill in its present form. We've discussed this with both the committee staff and the author's staff. Essentially, current law requires that publicly owned electric utilities do an evaluation in 2017 considering their energy storage targets through 2020. This bill would, in its present form, would require that we do another evaluation in 2018. We have suggested to the author that the date in this bill be changed from the current 2018 to 2021 so that we can then consider the new technologies that may develop, eliminate the redundancy, and plan for 2030. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee? Did you want to respond to any of the comments?
Oh, I'd be glad to respond to some, but mostly welcome the questions. Took some notes, obviously, on the date situations and not having mixed messages or redundancy, but we got into this for several reasons. One, when the Skinner bill passed, we didn't know about Aliso Canyon, but we also didn't know about the new 2030 targets, the 50% renewables. The world's changed somewhat. I don't view this measure as conflicting with the integrated resources planning that the PUC is doing. I view it as complementing that. The SCHIP program that was mentioned, the self-generating incentive program, that funds, it's a grant kind of program. It's not really a market signal for investment in innovation and storage and other kinds of options. And the funding will be exhausted by 2018. So what we have on the books now isn't going to accomplish what we need to have put into statute, creating that certainty and market signal in order to achieve our 2030 target. So I know the year is still young. I hope my office and I myself have a reputation of working well with people that have concerns, and hopefully I get this right. And kudos to Southern California Edison, who said we're very concerned that they could make Ms. Skinner's targets. Actually did an amazing job at securing 250 megawatts when San Onofre went down. And I guess I've been around too long, but every time people say they can't do it, they usually meet and exceed my expectations and perhaps their own, and for that I ask for your aye vote.
Very well. Senator McGuire, did you have?
Just a very minor one, and that is in regards on the municipal side, in regards to 2017 versus 2021. I think that's an easy, low-hanging fruit to be able to...
Yes, I wrote that one down. The evaluation sort of maybe is redundant in the 2017 for the 2018 and then 2021.
As long as they hit same specs.
Yeah,
so
that's what I...
All right. Thank you so much.
So I'm recommending a motion with these amendments, these two that provide discretion to the CPUC to determine whether to adopt storage targets and a technical amendment that makes,
Benefit and full benefits. Yeah, making
that
sure it's
either
the
makes
same.
it identical, the two sections of language, that one that you said that you would scratch from. Thank you. So clerk, please call the roll.
Dupass is amended to appropriations. Wesso?
Aye.
Wesso, aye. Morel? No. Morel, no. Canella? Gaines? No. Gaines, no. Hertzberg? Aye. Hertzberg, aye. Hill? Aye. Hill, aye. Lara? Leyva? McGuire? Aye. McGuire, aye. Pavley? Aye. Pavley, aye. Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye.
Senator Wolf?
Mr. Chair, members, 1414 will increase the effectiveness of ratepayer-funded energy efficiency programs, which we know are critical to our state policies. Last year, we passed 350 de Leon, which set a goal to double the energy efficiency savings in electricity and natural gas end uses by 2030. And to assist in meeting that goal, the legislature also passed 802, which will allow the energy efficiency program administrators to provide incentives and receive credit for projects. With these policy changes, it's really important to assure that the ratepayer-funded incentives comply with the requirements of the California Building Code, including the requirement to close a permit where a permit is required. 1414 requires proof of code compliance from recipients of energy efficiency rebates or incentives. For building code violations, there's also a particularly prevalent problem of contractors, often unlicensed, who are making heating, ventilating, and air conditioning (HVAC) improvements without attaining the proper permits, so there's no way to follow up with post-installation compliance inspection. The CPUC found that there is a low rate of code compliance. 1414 will direct the California Energy Commission to develop a system to track central heating and air cooling equipment sales and installations to verify compliance with permitting and other requirements. 1414 is supported by the BIA, the Apartment Association, California building officials, Sierra Club, U.S. Green Building Council, and TURN. With me today is Haley Goodson with TURN, Justin Milan for the U.S. Green Building Council to testify, frankly, to answer any questions you have. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you try to summarize your comments as much as you can without excluding information, but be brief as possible. If there are concerns that are raised by the committee on this bill, we will ask you to come back and maybe address any concerns that may arise by the opposition's testimony. So,
Good morning, Haley Goodson. Let me start again. Good morning, Haley Goodson from TURN. And as you've just heard, this bill would employ two mechanisms to improve compliance with California's building code to ensure that California gets the expected energy efficiency savings as well as the health and safety benefits that the code requires. Now, I'm going to give you briefly the big picture for why this matters, and I'm going to also tell you about two personal experiences I had with the value that comes to consumers from both pulling a permit and having a final closure inspection. So, California expects energy efficiency to play a significant role in meeting the state's greenhouse gas reduction goals and to do so at least cost to ratepayers. The California Public Utility Commission's energy efficiency goals for 2016 rely very heavily on California's building codes and appliance standards to deliver the efficiency savings that we're expecting. In fact, approximately half of the state's electricity energy efficiency savings are expected to come from building codes and appliance standards, and about 36% of the natural gas savings are expected to come from codes and standards. That means that seeing those expected savings requires that projects actually comply with California's building codes as verified and enforced through local building departments and their permitting process. By supporting compliance, and this bill supports the state's energy efficiency goals as a whole, but the bill also helps consumers get the value that they pay for when they do an upgrade to their home. So I'm going to tell you about two experiences I had that really made clear to me why the final permit inspection matters. So
Not too long ago, I decided to install blow-in wall insulation in my home, which didn't have any insulation in the exterior walls. And I hired an energy efficiency contractor who employed best practices, pulled a permit. In fact, I not only paid for the permit, but I also paid for the contractor's time of going to get the permit and arranging the final inspection. And the contractor drilled holes in my walls and blew in this insulation. And I saw the machine, and I saw that that was happening. And then they patched up the holes. And I couldn't actually see inside my walls or tell, were they really filled with insulation? Was I really going to get the thermal integrity benefits that I was paying for from this project? So the building inspector came out from my local building department, and he had a tool belt and some mechanisms for actually trying to verify that there was inspection from floor to ceiling in the walls, all the exterior walls. And he went around my house and took some measurements and used a listening device. And he concluded that the job was well done and complied with the energy efficiency requirements, and he signed off on the final permit. So I could not have done that quality control by myself as a consumer. I needed someone to be able to do it for me. The second, yeah.
Okay. Let me,
Super fast?
yes, please sum it up.
I will. So in the second instance, I replaced my windows with energy efficiency compliant windows. And the building inspector came out at the end, and he determined that the contractor had not complied with the requirements. And in fact, in that case, it was a safety problem. And one of the windows didn't have safety glass and was in a dangerous location. So he required the contractor to replace that window with a code compliant window. And the contractor did it at no cost to me. And then my home passed the inspection. And I, by myself, could not have ensured that I got the intended safety benefits from the building code without that final inspection.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, Justin Mullen for the local California chapter of the U.S. Green Building Council. We're very much in support, as the author and as the analysis indicated. We supported AB 1918, and we saw very similar results several years ago in the Bay Area, where 80 to 90% of these installations were not permitted. So for those reasons, we support the bill.
Thank you. Although more support, state your name and your position, please.
Mr. Chairman, Member Scott Witcher on behalf of the Western State Council of Sheet Metal Workers and the California State Pipe Trades Council in support. Thank you.
Eddie Moreno on behalf of Sierra Club California in support.
Matt Kloppenstein on behalf of the Center for Sustainable Energy in support.
Do we have opposition? Do we have, no, before you move it, we got to hear from the opposition? Yeah, we're not. Not in the Senate rules. Really? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Randy Pollock on behalf of the Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration Institute. The Institute represents 300 companies who manufacture equipment in North America. We are concerned with the recent amendments on April 12th, which the Senator indicated, where it discussed that CEC has to come up with a tracking of equipment through the process. We are very concerned as member companies to this, because when you try to track serial numbers, it's very difficult as you go all the way through the process, whether you're going through a distributor, if it's from out of state, if it's coming from another country. Over the last couple of days, we have had discussions with the Senator's office and her staff. They have agreed to continue to work with us to see if we can reach resolution to that issue. Thank you.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, Valerie Terrell Vlahos with PG&E, and we have taken a position of oppose unless amended. We have talked to the, engaged in some discussions with the author, and I think would have to respectfully disagree that we think that current practices that the utility engages in, such as having customers verify with a self-certification and conveying information to us like a permit number and the contractor that they work with, is the correct amount of burden, if you will, on the utility program, where a more robust approach would be to look at this issue in its entirety and see where we can help our local governments and local entities increase permit compliance. We appreciate the data that was shared, and we're unclear if that data of 80 to 90% of not permitted, I guess HVACs in this case, if 80 to 90% of those also received a utility incentive. So we're not necessarily seeing a correlation with the data. We see that with hundreds of jurisdictions all having a process, how is the utility to verify that every single permit was closed? We all have a story of what had happened with us in our energy efficiency home project. I know of an example where the building inspector just popped their head up in the attic and said, oh yeah, it's here. So permit signed off and closed. So we've suggested to the author a more robust approach, like that was mentioned in 2014, AB 1918, where the PUC would lead an effort to improve compliance with these building standards. Those types of robust approach that engages a diverse amount of stakeholders, with each stakeholder taking on their share of the issue. Could be education, outreach, public information campaigns, maybe some assistance to the local governments in streamlining their processes. So with that, we would hope to continue working with the author to adopt this robust approach. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Tamara Raspberry representing San Diego Gas and Electric, SoCal Gas. And unfortunately, we do also oppose this bill, not because we oppose the safe installation of equipment, nor do we oppose ensuring that the work is installed properly. But what we do oppose is that in implementing what's proposed in this bill, that we would slow down the customer payment process. And also slow down the customer project by becoming now the permitting police. I think the example that Ms. Goodson gave about her own experiences shows that the current system works. I didn't hear, I don't know if she received utility rebates for doing her installation. Probably not, but it shows that the current system works, but the burden is really on the local governments and making sure that they're in compliance, not really on the utility. And so I think her example that she gave shows that the current system with the local governments and their permitting process works currently, and that if the permitting is closed and self-reported by the customer, then we are able to give their rebates. So unfortunately, we do oppose the bill, but we don't oppose, like I said, safe and reliable installation of energy efficiency measures. Thank you.
Nick Pappas with Southern California Edison. We are not formally opposed to this bill, but we do have some concerns that I just want to share as we work with the committee and the author on this bill. As we heard from some of the other testimony, there are hundreds of different jurisdictions in California with varying different processes, varying speeds at which they process permits, different types of permit closures. So we are concerned with some of the complexity that could be held up to the utility in administering and actually figuring out what a permit closure means in different jurisdictions, how fast different jurisdictions could actually produce these. So that could be a challenge for us moving forward in its complexity. And we're also concerned that this could pose a problem for some of our customers who, depending on the jurisdiction, may be held up in actually receiving the energy efficiency rebate. So not opposed, just want to share our concerns and note that we're looking forward to working with the author and committee moving forward on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from members of the public? Any questions from the committee? Did you want to make a closing comment?
Just very briefly, we look forward to working with those who have concerns and are in opposition to work out some of these details. I ask for your vote.
Music to my ears. Thank you, Senator. We have a motion by Senator Hertzberg. Clerk, please call the roll.
Do pass to appropriations. Wesso?
Aye.
Wesso, aye. Morel? Canella?
Aye.
Canella, aye. Gaines? Gaines, no. Hertzberg?
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Hill? Hill, aye. Lara? Leyva? McGuire? McGuire, aye. Pavley? Pavley, aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye.